One of the practices many farmers do in soybeans at that full flower first pod stage is to treat with both a fungicide and an insecticide.
Well, we always get the question, will a fungicide plus insecticide application pay for me? That's a tough one to answer. We don't know what the weather conditions are, what kind of insect pressure or disease pressure you have. But I will say this, if we have some insects out there, but not some disease, using a combination, well, you'll probably see a return on investment. If we have some disease out there, but not a huge amount of insects, you may see a return on investment. So you just don't know. And many people look at it as, well, I have some bugs and I've certainly got risk of disease and I have to be preventative with that disease application. I'm already out spraying for bugs. A fungicide application has historically paid. It's just one of those decisions that you're making on the farm.
Okay, so let's get a little more specific here. Number one, we don't want you spraying for bugs if you don't have bugs. So if you see absolutely zero bugs in the field, then we would tell you there's really no point in spraying an insecticide. Okay, we're not big on spraying preventative insecticides and not too many people are. But in most cases, you're gonna find bugs out in your field. So when you're out there, you just have to determine, hey, do I have an economic threshold? And keep in mind, for a lot of these insecticides, they cost $2 an acre now for the full rate, $2. This is one of the best things that's happened here in the last 10 years on the farm. Even while commodity prices were going up starting 10 years ago, insecticide prices were going down. I mean, most everything else, as you know, on the farm for costs went up. Everything, it seemed like, went up, but insecticides came crashing down. So when we have $2 for the full rate of an insecticide, it only takes a few bugs. So don't let people tell you, oh, it's 250 aphid is the threshold number. That's ridiculous, come on. I mean, the price of insecticide is 1/4 what it was when the 250 aphid threshold came out. So you only need a few aphids in your field. You only need a few bean leaf beetles, a few grasshoppers, a few cutworms. You only have to have a few bugs. So look at that first. Then if you do have some bugs, you gotta realize, hey, every time a bug feeds on a plant, it opens it up for disease. So you are much more likely to have that fungicide pay.
I have two other things here on the bugs, Brian. One, when you're out with a sweep net in your field, which we strongly encourage you, have a sweep net and use it on a regular basis in all your fields. I don't care if it's soybeans or corn or wheat or whatever crop you're looking at, and just sweep through the field and see what you find, because chances are you're not just finding soybean aphids, you've also got some grasshoppers or some bean leaf beetles. So don't just look at one threshold, look at, all right, I've got 5 different species of bugs out here. They're all at about 80% of what a threshold would be. Guess what? You definitely need to be spraying. Then the other thing is, not only do bugs open up wounds where disease can get in, some bugs carry that disease with them. Like bean leaf beetles, for example, with bean pod mottle virus. When they're feeding on that plant, they're actually injecting some of that toxin into the plant and they're going to have a disease issue. So we definitely want to, when we're out spraying for bugs, also think about disease too.
Okay, so the next thing is, what else can I throw in that tank? I've already got a fungicide and insecticide in there. Can I throw a herbicide in? Yes, you can. Can I throw a foliar fertilizer in there? Yes, you can. But when you start mixing all these things together, you have to be real careful about 2 things. Number one is, will it mix? So we always tell people, have some compatibility agent around on the farm, because if you start having an issue, throw the compatibility agent in. That hopefully will get you by. The next thing is, with the leaf burn, you have to be really careful there. Like Lorsban or the old organophosphates, for example, you throw that in, they have some harsher oils in that formulation, and that's going to add to your leaf burn. So we don't typically like seeing foliar fertilizer together with Lorsban, but foliar fertilizer together with one of the pyrethroids, not so bad. So just talk to your agronomist, and when you start putting all these different tank mix things together, you got to make sure you're doing the right thing for spray adjuvants and just for general mixing, so you don't have any issues out on your farm.
Okay, let's talk about timing really quick, because if you've got bugs, you have to spray, and spray on the early side. The highest yielding farmers around the country, that's their rule of thumb. If I've got bugs, I would rather err on the early side than be too late and let them cause a whole bunch more damage. The other thing is, okay, let's say that you have an insect population that's building, like soybean aphids, and you have ideal weather coming up for the next week where that aphid population is going to blow up really fast. Get spraying now, and if you say, hey, I'm right at the perfect time for fungicide, which in most areas, R2 to R3, full bloom to first pod, that's the right time to be spraying a fungicide where we're getting the best economic return on our investment year in, year out. At that timing, take a look for bugs. If you have a population that's growing, pull the trigger on the early side.
When we talk about spraying on the early side for aphids, Transform is a good product for you too. It's more expensive. That's going to be about $6 an acre roughly, but it doesn't kill lady beetles. So if you were spraying way early and you say, ooh, I'm worried about getting a second flush, well, hey, if you don't kill the beneficials, then maybe you're able to get by without having to spray a second time.
As we get to these stages during reproduction in soybeans, we get to R2, full bloom, we get to R3, first pod. They're very critical stages of growth. A fungicide application has shown a good return on investment across the country. And also at that time, make sure you're scouting for insects. If you've got some bug issues out there, you'll want to address those as well.
Well, another thing you may want to address when you're out in the field spraying is our Weed of the Week. We'll show you how to stop it on your farm coming up later in the show.